Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. If I could just ask everyone to either find a seat or get comfortable in the space that you are in. Lieutenant Governor Delgado is in the building. And we are going to get this thing on and popping. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for coming. We had a moment there when we had no power and we weren't sure what was going to happen, but by His grace and mercy, we are here and ready to go. So my name is Leon Holden, and among many of the hats that I wear around the community, I am the incoming president of the board of Southside Community Center. I am also the little black boy from Brooklyn who never thought he'd be on a stage introducing possibly our next New York State governor. Unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, Executive Director Siobhan Bunch and Deputy Director Kayla Matos could not be in the building today, and so they asked me to represent the center, and I was so honored and humbled to do that. Here at Southside, we work very hard to affirm, empower, and to foster the blackness of the community. And believe it or not, we have been doing that for almost a century. Right? And so I think it's only fitting that we recognize not only the leadership of the center, but the support collaborators, the volunteers, the community itself, and all of the organizations in the community that help to not only keep the ship afloat, but make sure that we keep running full steam ahead. And before I turn the mic over to Jeffra, I just want to say two more things. Humans don't remember speeches. They remember how you made them feel, and they remember the call to action. So on behalf of the entire board, our call to action to you is to stay awake and resist. Jeffra, it's all yours, my love.
Thank you. Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Southside, for hosting us today. I'm Jeffra Rusink from Indivisible Tompkins, and we're here today to welcome Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado as we follow up on the biggest day of protest Ithaca has ever had. That was June 14th, no kings. We had about 4,500 people there, and we are ready to do more. So today we are kicking off Indivisible Tompkins' Good Trouble Lives On Week of Action. We're honoring the life and legacy of the one and only John Lewis. Yeah. Ms. Peyi Soyinka Ayerewele.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jeffra. Thank you, Southside. And it's such a pleasure to be here with amazing, passionate individuals. It is in times like this that we have to think very hard about our political choices. It is in times of upheaval, extreme turmoil, and destabilization when everything, even the ground under our feet, seems to be shaking. It is in these times that we must look closely at the very character of those in whose hands we entrust our lives, our families, our communities, our fortunes, our health, and our very future. We're living in those times where institutions have become so fragile. Our very humanity has been eroded. Those entrusted with the lives of people pursue us on the streets, detain us at will, eliminate our jobs, endanger our health, destroy the environment, and make a mockery of the promises and treaties they've offered to us. So it is at these moments that we know we must ask, who really is this person who is asking for our vote? What is the character of this person who says, trust me with your lives and with your future? Because right now, more than ever, we seek integrity, courage, and capacity. So it's a privilege to introduce someone who I met 28 years ago, my husband and I did. A man whose values, integrity, and word, in my opinion, shine as brightly today as they did almost 3 decades ago. I ask you to permit me to read a couple of lines from a letter I wrote regarding this individual. It's dated August 22nd, 1998. I wrote this letter regarding this individual when I had just started as a young assistant professor at Colgate University. And I decided to tuck away this hard copy of this letter in a small folder I kept, and I labeled Students' Letters to Keep. It was not an electronic copy. I don't have any electronic copy, just a paper copy, because I believed for almost 3 decades that someday I would see this person rise to national leadership, changing the lives of many. This is the letter reading. It says, Letter of Appraisal, Antonio Delgado. I'm particularly delighted to write in connection with Mr. Delgado's application. He was a member of my IR class in the preceding semester, and I count it a privilege to have him back in another of my classes this semester. Before I actually met Antonio, I was understandably intrigued when a colleague informed me that he was, in quotation, very envious of the fact that Antonio was registered to take my class. He had taught him in some classes and had hoped to have him again as a student. I found him to be one of the most, and this is I'm quoting from here, motivated, committed, and intelligent students I have ever taught. He completed the semester at the top of the class, relished dialogue and debate. What I found and still find most compelling is his capacity to energize and infuse the entire class with a zest for learning, mental participation, and total involvement in the course. I'll go on to recite a situation that happened at Colgate, almost fractured the university campus. And Antonio took a leadership in helping us to rebuild the campus and the community then. I said he spoke with respect and good humor, went on to help in developing, organizing, and leading an event that reinforced intra-community harmony. I have since had reason to regard him as a young man of considerable integrity with a personal commitment to making a definite and positive impact on his immediate community and wider world. Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado has come a long way from 1998 when that letter was written. A long way from his birthplace in Schenectady, New York. A long way from his law career, where he became the first, leaving that career to become the first Black and Hispanic congressman representing a district in upstate New York. I followed him over the years. Was it true? Is this a man of integrity? I looked at when he earned a law degree from Harvard, when he went into hip-hop music career, and his opponent said, "What? Hip-hop? You will never lead." And somehow, voters were astute enough to understand that this person who pledged to bring back jobs to the district, who emphasized health care, who spoke about small businesses, who passed bills to make a difference, improving state safety standards, who spoke about the Farmer Relief Act, who dealt with debt relief, who was there during COVID, finding a way to assure people that they would not lose everything as they went through the most difficult times of their life. It is such a privilege. It is such a privilege today to look at him and say, yes, this is someone whose integrity has stood sure for 3 decades. So thank you very much, everyone. It's a pleasure to have Lieutenant Governor Delgado with us, and I look forward to the conversations. It's my pleasure to welcome Mayor Rob Cantelmo to speak now. Thank you.
I don't know how anything I could say could stand up to that. I don't think you'd be hard-pressed to find a single one of my professors or instructors to say something so kind. So please, let's give another round of applause for all of our previous speakers. And also, let's get a little closer, folks in the back. I think there's plenty of room up here. You can all move up towards the middle a little bit. But, good afternoon, and thank you for being here. It is my honor to welcome you to the Southside Community Center, an institution that represents the strength, the resilience, and the history of Ithaca's Black community, and a place where our city's future continues to take shape. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing someone who has long stood with Ithaca, not just in words, but in actions. Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado has been a consistent and thoughtful partner to communities like ours across the state. In particular, he has been a strong voice for addressing New York's housing crisis, which I think you all know is near and dear to my heart, not just as a policy challenge, but as a moral one. He understands that affordability and stability and opportunity begin with a safe place to call home. And he's brought that understanding to the work of governing, helping to elevate housing as a statewide policy and centered housing in all public policy as not just a matter of what is best, but what is just. What's more, the Lieutenant Governor has never treated Ithaca as an afterthought. He knows our city, and he knows our values, and he's shown up for us time and again. Whether it is supporting the next generation, backing our sustainability efforts, or simply listening, really listening. I mean, they had to peel him away from the farmer's market talking to some of those vendors today. He's what we need. He's brought empathy and he's brought presence to this role. And so I'm here today to say very clearly that it means something to have a statewide leader who values communities like ours. And it means something when that leader doesn't just show up when it's convenient, but continues to show up time and again for the people that rely on that advocacy. Please join me in welcoming a true public servant, my friend, Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado.
How you doing? Southside, how you doing? Southside community. I want to thank, first and foremost, the Southside Community Center. And Leon. All right, brother. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to build and connect with you all here in Ithaca. It means a lot. I want to make sure I acknowledge a number of people. The mayor, thank you for your leadership and being a genuine public servant that leads from the heart, that cares deeply about the community. I know that my friend Senator Leah Webb and the Assembly member Kellis are not here, but I want to share some love to them, two genuine public servants. Siobhan Bunch. Siobhan here? Okay, I want to shout her out as well as a director. Indivisible Tompkins. Thank you. Thank you for your commitment and your dedication to the work that is required in this morally challenging moment. I want to acknowledge Jeffra from Indivisible for the work. And my professor. Hey, where are you? Where'd you go? My professor. I've thanked you in private over the years. I want to take this moment to thank you publicly for seeing something. It means a lot. And you learn as you come of age in life, you don't do it alone. You need community. You need people that see things in you. Our young people need that everywhere. And it is truly, truly meaningful and inspirational to know that you saw that in me. And I carry that vision every single day. And the word you use around integrity resonates deeply. So thank you for seeing that. Even back when I was just trying to figure it out in Colgate. You know, I want to talk about good trouble. Can I talk about good trouble? No, because I don't know if, I have a feeling that you understand this. But good trouble is hard. Good trouble will make you lose your life. Because that's what the late, great John Lewis meant. You know, when I ran for Congress in 2018 and won in a district that was 90% white, the 8th most rural congressional seat in the country, and a seat that Trump had won 2 years prior by 7 points. Yes, wow. And that no Democrat, since the district was drawn in 2010, had ever won. Ever. And I had a hip-hop album. I had a lot of highlights from that campaign, and I had a lot of highlights from my first term in Congress. But there's no highlight that compares to within the first couple of months of serving in Congress. I had the honor to go on one of the great pilgrimage, the annual pilgrimages that the late, great John Lewis would take members of Congress to in Selma. And he'd walk us through the different sites along the way, from the churches and the community centers, and of course, Edmund Pettus Bridge. I got to walk across Edmund Pettus Bridge, my wife as well, with John Lewis. I got to stand on the other side of that walk alongside of him with my wife and take a picture as the first person of color to represent upstate New York in Congress. Had the opportunity to stand next to him in that moment with eyes welling up and genuinely tell him I would not be where I was in that exact moment but for his willingness to make good trouble. On the way back to D.C., we had to get on a charter bus. And it was raining. And we were stuck there for a little while. Bunch of members of Congress, bipartisan. Congressman Lewis always wanted to make sure it was a bipartisan pilgrimage. And I was sitting there next to my wife, waiting for the rain to pass on the bus. And she looked up and she said, you know, hey, it looks like the congressman's sitting in the front row by himself. No one's sitting next to him. Maybe you should go up there and talk to him. And I listened to my wife, always. And I did. And I have a picture that I cherish. The two of us, you can see that my wife took it in the back. and we're huddled up on the front of a bus with the rain coming down. I had so much to ask him about. I couldn't even gather. There's so much. I'm a student of Dr. King. I've read every speech, all of his books. And now I'm sitting next to one of his apostles. And I had so much to ask him. I said, please tell me how you did it. How'd you get up? How'd you keep going? Where'd you find the capacity to keep believing in this work without flinching, without giving in to the hate, the extremism, the division, the pettiness, the smallness? How'd you keep picking yourself up every single time? Unwavering. What was it? What was it about King? Tell me. What have I not seen and understood? Talk to me. And I wish I could give to you in this moment what he gave to me. I wish you could hear the conviction, because the words don't really do it justice. What he said was words that might sound very familiar to you. He talked about love and the beloved community and how important it is to never lose sight and faith in any of that. But it was the manner in which he said it that I can't replicate. I can never do it justice. I was talking to somebody who had completely embodied and had been engulfed by the power of love. A strong and demanding, unwavering, unyielding love. The kind of love that can make transformational change. The kind of love that transcends politics. The kind of love that is required when you are being confronted with the hate and the division and the moral bankruptcy that we're experiencing coming out of Washington in this very moment. People ask, well, how did you do it in New York 19? What was the recipe for success? Yeah, it was organization. Yes, it was knocking on doors. Yes, it was meeting people where they are and listening intently. But it's loving people hard, and it's not easy. Now, love, and here's where Good Trouble really gets interesting. Because as a parent, I've come to appreciate that accountability stems from love. When your child does something you don't think they should do, when they misbehave or say something, it's love that compels you to say, no, don't do that. That's not the right way to behave. That's not the way to respect somebody or to communicate to somebody. Love makes you hold your child accountable. Love is what drives and inspires accountability. When you don't love something, when you don't care about where they're headed or what they're doing, let them do it. Good luck. But when you give a damn about folks, you have to be prepared to hold power, even your friends, even those in your own party, accountable. Love. Love might make you put your career on the line. Love will make you say self-preservation doesn't matter. Survival doesn't matter. What matters is the mission. What matters is bringing light to the situation. What matters is a process that is open and transparent, that empowers the community, that delivers agency to the people. That is what matters. And love is what drives that at the end of the day. Not hate, not division. None of that drives that level of accountability. It is love. And so when I look at the cuts that are coming out of Washington, and I see the $10 trillion over the next, the $4.4 trillion over the next 10 years in revenue cuts, and the 1.5 cuts in spending to pay for the wealthy to continue to concentrate wealth at the expense of the people, the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to SNAP, the cuts to our communities across this state and this country. For what? For what? It is cruel and it is immoral. We can call it right all we want. Republican, no, it's immoral. But Good Trouble doesn't just stop at saying, look how bad we got it coming out of Washington. You see, that is making trouble, and it's good trouble. But I want to pose a different set of questions, too. Because here in New York, a state that is controlled by Democrats. See, here's where we get good trouble going now. Truth is hard to hear, but 1 in 5 of our kids are living in poverty. Half of those kids are growing up in deep poverty, and they've been trapped there across generations, but who's doing anything about it? Besides throwing them in jail. Half of those kids are growing up in deep poverty. Got folks upwards of 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 people can't afford basic necessities, from housing to health care to groceries, utilities, right here in New York, the great state of New York. Meanwhile, we have the largest wealth inequality gap of any state in the country here in New York. We are living in a time here in New York where we have a mayor in the city of New York City that's been allowed to give the keys to Trump. Now, you might not know this, maybe some of you do. Truth now. I said he needs to resign and need to be removed. Was that the politically expedient thing to do? Doesn't matter. It's the truth. I love Biden. One of my political heroes. I also said Biden should have stepped aside because he wasn't going to win. And a lot of my folks in the party didn't want to say that because they're worried about the political dynamics within the party. But he's an existential threat, Trump is, isn't he? He's a threat, and we see it. So why are we acting like it? It's hypocritical. It's hypocrisy. Stand on it if you're going to say it. Don't just talk about it. Have your actions reflect your words. Here in New York, people are hurting. Before we even get to the cuts that are coming in Medicaid, we weren't fully funding our healthcare system. Our reimbursement rates weren't where they need to be. We weren't really stepping up for our safety net hospitals. That wasn't happening. We were already leaving folks out to fend for themselves. A $254 billion budget right here in New York, the third largest economy in this country. If we were an independent nation, the 8th largest economy in the world. Do you feel that? Do you feel the value of all that wealth? The value coming to your doorstep? Do you feel like you can walk up and wake up every day and say, you know, the money that we put in, public dollars, taxpayer dollars, the money that we put in is being used to benefit everybody? No. You know why? Because that money isn't being used to benefit everybody. Here's a little secret. I call this the Democratic version of trickle-down economics. What we like to do is say, we're just going to give this money away in the form of tax credits and subsidies to businesses, some of whom don't even do business in New York. Just want to come to New York, and maybe they'll set up shop here, and maybe they'll create jobs for us. Study after study shows never works. And yet year after year, we give out the money in the form of billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, all under the umbrella of economic development. Where's the development? Who's being affected by it? Intergenerational poverty persists. The middle class continues to shrink. more and more people are living paycheck to paycheck. Where the hell is the money going? Not to the community. Why can't we reallocate those public funds and invest them directly into the community? Why can't we say we need more pathways to career opportunities for our young people that incentivize nonprofits and community organizations to build together and collaborate and really transform communities that have been left behind? We talk about housing, and the model is, I hope you hear me, I'm getting in some good trouble here. The model is, let's give it away, the tax credits to developers. They'll figure it out. Good luck. Because here's what happens, nothing. And if it does happen, it typically prices out folks in the community. Meanwhile, 7 out of 10 New Yorkers right now are eligible for rental assistance from the federal government. Now, we know the feds ain't coming. They're not coming with any rental assistance. You know, the governor proposed in her executive budget to address this problem. Nothing. Zero. The legislative body said, come on, let's get at least some money to help these 7 out of 10 folks who would otherwise be eligible for rental assistance. How about $250 million, Governor? Because we are in the middle of a housing crisis. You acknowledge that. People are hurting, so we should do something to give them economic security. It's important. The response, a $50 million pilot program. That's not bold. That's papering over the realities people are living through. Why can't we have a statewide rental assistance program that ensures that folks who are living on the margins, check to check, can get some economic security that they need? And while we're at it, why not have a statewide grant program for first-time home buyers that are looking to figure out how to have a place to live and raise a family for our young families out there? Oh, we don't have the money. Oh, we don't? Says who? Because I know where it's going. Why are we still subsidizing fossil fuel companies? But we want to talk about all the CLCPA goals and how important they are. Don't double talk to people. If you believe in the goals, act like it. Meanwhile, we got utility companies that want to jack up the prices with no accountability whatsoever. Zero. But don't tell me there's not legislators, people who are willing to cap those costs. There are bills that are meant to rein these insane costs in. Who's signing that bill? Haven't seen it. People are hurting, but nothing is being done to meet the moment. Healthcare. How many more years do we have to just accept this idea that profit should be the driving force of how we deliver care to people? Why are people to this day in New York, and in America for that matter, continuing to go bankrupt just to pay their health care? And listen, I have yet to hear a proposal from the governor that is meant to meet this moment. What I hear is we're going to keep feeding crumbs to the system while we, and here's where the hypocrisy gets me, while we point the finger at Trump and say these cuts are going to hurt our healthcare system. These cuts are going to hurt our hospitals. Yeah, you're damn right they are. What have we done in the meantime? And while they were at it in Washington, right, doing all this work, I kept hearing this refrain: call your congressman. Call your congressman, call your congressman, call your congressman. Great, call your congressman. Guess what? It happened. What were we doing in the interim? What was the plan to meet this? Because we know that in just this fiscal year alone, we're going to have at least $750 million that we got to figure out how to deal with. And then in the next year, it's at least $3 billion, and it jumps up to $10 billion in cuts for the state of New York budget. So are we going to raise revenue Are we going to reallocate public dollars and invest in where they're needed? Are we going to look at the rainy day fund? What is the plan to deal with the harsh reality that you keep talking about? Everybody keeps talking about how bad it is. It reminds me of the Biden stuff. You keep talking about something, but you're not acting. It feels a little too political. We need universal health care. We need it. And we're going to push for it. Every single step of the way, we're going to push for it. Listen, whether it's health care, whether it's housing, listen, I'm a dad too, so I think about child care. It's hard out there for our families. You know, right now, our child care workers make about $19 an hour on average. It's a joke. 1 out of 10 are living in poverty, child care workers. 1 in 4 can't afford basic necessities, 1 in 5. And the governor vetoed a couple of bills that would make child care assistance more eligible, more accessible to more and more people. And recommended that we put more money in building child care centers. But my question is, who's going to show up to work there? Who's going to come? So we're taking taxpayer dollars and we're building child care centers, but we're not going to make sure that there are people that we're going to pay a livable wage to go work there. So not only are we wasting taxpayer dollars to build facilities that won't have anybody in them, we're not helping the people who need the help the most. We need, and this, again, this is not, anything I'm saying I don't think it's right there. There are folks in the state Senate and Assembly that are working on these issues, that want to have a supplemental fund for our child care workers, that want to deliver this so we can get done. You just got to be willing to make a little good trouble. You know, as income inequality grows, and we deal with the way in which that equality, income equality, can be converted into political power, more and more folks are just being left behind. More and more of our communities just can't afford where they live. And the reality is, if we don't really hold up the mirror of accountability in this moment from a place of love, if we're not willing to do that, then the trend lines that we're experiencing right now here in New York, where we saw in New York the largest swing from left to right in the entire country, we got to own why that's happening. We got to own why people are throwing their hands up and saying, it doesn't matter which way we go. Nothing changes. We got to figure out that it's not just about fighting against Trump. We must fight against Trump. Not enough, though. What are we fighting for? Our immigrant community is under siege. Who's going to protect them? Where's the moral and political courage going to come from to make sure that we stand with our immigrant community, the individuals who've been here for 10, 20, 30 plus years, raising their families, contributing to our very fabric of the community we live in, and now being demagogued and scapegoated. And you know why they're being scapegoated? For all the reasons I just laid out. You see, there's an illusion of scarcity out there that we all can't, not everybody can really benefit. Some people have to lose. That's the narrative we get told. You know, it's funny that when we had the migrant crisis happen and folks got bused to New York City, one of the things that I thought was very interesting was they found money to meet the issue. people have been clamoring for money. Our communities who've been here for a long time have been saying, okay, can we get some investment in this community? And what that did was it created a bit of a division, I think, unfortunately, a false one. Because the folks who have been left behind, who have been marginalized, took it personal that, well, how come now you have money? Because before you didn't have it. So now you're finding it. But if you step back for a second and don't get caught up in the scarcity of illusion, don't get caught up in the divide and the conquer, say, wait a second, you always had it. It was always here. You just chose not to allocate it where you thought it was needed. That's the difference. We can't let our communities be divided. We have the need to ground ourselves in our shared economic pain, in the fight for shared economic security. Because I don't care how you look. I don't care what your gender is, the religion you practice, your sexual orientation. Every single person is trying to make a living. Every single person is trying to put food on their table. Every single person is trying to figure out how to pay that health care bill. Every single person is trying to figure out how their children are going to have a future here. And if we don't get back to those fundamental basics and hold our government at every single level of government accountable, and hold our Democrats who wave the flag for working people, who wave the flag for working families, accountable to that message, then we will continue to backtrack in exactly the fashion that we have been backtracking in. So this is a moment. It's an important moment of accountability. It's not going to be easy. We got a lot of pain coming because what is happening in Washington is diabolical. It really is. It's heart-wrenching to know the level of pain that they're bringing to communities across this state and this country, and just to exacerbate economic inequality. That's the rationale. Just to make the economic inequality get worse. That's what people have to suffer for. It's inexcusable. But our states and New York has a responsibility to hold the line here. To hold the line. New York, home of the suffrage movement. New York, where the founding of the NAACP happened. The environmental conservation movement, the labor movement, LGBTQ movement, Stonewall. We are the epicenter of multiculturalism. We believe in diversity and equity and inclusion. Because we believe in facts and truth and history and books and knowledge. We believe in these things here. We are the epicenter of tolerance and acceptance and love. And there's a reason why they're coming for New York. Because of all that we stand for here in New York. Now is not the time to backslide. Whether it's on climate, whether it's on income inequality and poverty, whether it's on justice, whether it's on diversity, immigrant rights, now is not the time to backslide and just maintain a broken status quo, papering over a system that we know is failing people all across this state is not how we hold the line. It's not how we fight for a better future. It's how we get steamrolled. We have a moral responsibility in this moment to meet it. To meet it in the way that we know we can. To meet it in the same way that our ancestors met it. When they fought back against dictatorships and fought back against authoritarianism and fought back against white supremacy and fought back against patriarchy and fought back against xenophobia. So let me say, in conclusion, to bring it full circle, back to the late, great John Lewis. I want to finish my story. Because even though I can't tell you the words, what I hope you gain from today as you gear up to make good trouble in all the different ways that you intend to. Believe. Don't get cynical. Don't be pessimistic. Don't doubt. Don't question. Because what I heard in John Lewis's voice was certitude, was unbounded, unconflicted belief, unflinching. And he had the bruises and the scars and the bloodshed to prove that he meant it. So I knew when he said it, and everything about the tone of his voice made it clear to me that he meant every single word. And when he talked about the power of love and the transformational power of love, he wasn't just talking it. He lived it. He breathed it. And you're going to have to face challenges. They're going to come for us. They're going to keep raiding our communities. They're going to try to divide us. They're going to pit us against the most vulnerable. They're going to test your moral and your political courage. They're going to make you want to test what you're willing to sacrifice and give up in this moment of moral accountability. And you got to lean on your beliefs. You got to lean on the conviction of your beliefs to see you through. And you got to lean on each other. Lean on each other. And know that you have somebody in me that is with you. That is with you every single step of the way, that is with you, prepared to sacrifice, prepared to give it up for the greater good. That is not leading from the outside in, but leading from the inside out. Not reacting to every political situation, following where the winds blow, but dictating how we navigate our truth while the winds whip all around us. Because that is what conviction is. That is what truth is. That is how we have overcome tragedy and injustice after tragedy and injustice. That is how we've done it, with unwavering love and commitment. Okay, last story. And it's a powerful one. As a student of Dr. King, on the mountaintop, his last sermon before we lost him, he talks about seeing the promised land. He says, I may not get there with you, but I've seen it. I've seen the promised land. I've studied those words over the years, trying to figure out what he meant. Because if you take them literally, you have to ask yourself, well, how do you see something if you haven't gotten there yet? He says, I may not get there with you, but don't worry, I've seen the promised land. What did he see? And then I started looking at stories he's told over the years, and one story stuck out. He talked about how he was marching in Chicago, and how he was marching down the street, and a white woman, came up to him in a fit of rage. And she was crying. Actually, she wasn't crying. She was, her eyes were welling up in anger and hostility. Might as well have been crying, but tears of rage. She said, I hate you. Get out of here. And he looked at her and he smiled. And he said, you're too beautiful to be so ugly in this moment. And he smiled, though, and he kept marching, And as the story goes, he got about 2 or 3 blocks down the road, and he heard somebody running up behind him. And he wasn't sure who it was, if he should be worried about his life. Or turn around, it was the same woman. And at this point, she had tears, real tears, pouring down her face. And she said, please, can you stop? And he said, of course. She said, I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me. I'm sorry. Dr. King saw the promised land in that moment. He saw it because what he saw was the transformational power of love. What he saw was how love can get hell up out of you if you give it a chance. So when you talk to people who may have supported Trump, or who may be Republicans or independents or you don't agree with, like many of the folks that I represented when I was in Congress, who voted for me, by the way. You're not going to win them over if you don't love them. Yeah, it's hard to say. Good trouble. That is how you make good trouble. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your dedication to this cause. Thank you for being willing to love and to love hard, and know that every step of the way it's going to take sacrifice, it's going to take courage, and it's going to take truth. God bless you, and I love you.